guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
It's a Scoop Tuesday on a Thursday. We're shuffling Doogie around here because we're doing a Thursday, Friday. Doogie, you're nursing back to health. So we'll see if we get into some reckless speculation here today as well. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate.
Everybody
Doogie
should
Wolfson.
celebrate, Phil. Good to see
They
you.
should. It's a lifestyle. Doogie is from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. You can find him twice a week on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. Let's start with Vikings injury report. There's a handful of important players on there. Take us through Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold dings his knee in that game on Sunday, comes out for a play, gets a standing ovation from the Vikings fan base when he comes back on the field. 6 months earlier, if you would have asked people, are you likely to give a standing ovation to Sam Darnold in week 3? What would that poll look like? He gets an MRI earlier this week, and then the Vikings have a walkthrough yesterday. So what do we know about Sam Darnold's knee condition right now, Dukes?
He is good to go. That was the true welcome to Minnesota moment, right? When the fan base truly showed it is fully embracing Sam Darnold. He will play on Sunday at Lambeau Field. The one guy I would be concerned about right now would be Ivan Pace Jr. with the ankle. How will that respond? We'll get a better sense later today. I have not heard of, major concern with Garrett Bradbury. His situation, I believe that's also an ankle, although, Judd, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a knee? I believe it's an ankle with Garrett Bradbury.
I thought it was a knee, but I'll check.
Maybe it is a knee, but regardless, I have not been led to believe that there's cause for concern on Garrett Bradbury. Dallas Turner told me the other day, knee, that he'll be good to go. Missed the one game, but good to go at Lambeau on Sunday. And there is optimism on Jordan Addison coming back. Grass surface, that certainly helps on Sunday. Addison making his return after missing 2 games.
It was an ankle for Bradbury did not have a good game, I thought, on Sunday. I forget what the PFF grades say. And if you watched it, he was playing hurt. So I think it's not a question of can he play. I think the real question for the coaching staff is how well can he play. Kenny Clark on the injury report for Green Bay, I would expect him to play as well, though, and that obviously makes the interior offensive line's job tougher. Pace is the Ivan Pace thing is very intriguing to me because it sort of shows the price that this team is paying for its style of play, and I also think, Dukes, it shows you why they probably went to a walkthrough on Wednesday. So Pace was dealing with, if I'm not mistaken, coming out of the Niners game, a quad. Well, I think they've been going fairly hard at practice because O'Connell said on Friday it was actually an ankle. The ankle occurred in practice on Thursday, I think. And so,
yes.
and the ankle now is the only thing that's on the injury report. And then they do a walkthrough on Wednesday. I think there's a big time balancing act here of if you're going to play this style, you can't play patty cake in practice consistently, but you also can't wear these guys down to a nub. So I think we're walking a fine line here of the style meeting up with the health issues.
I'm with you. I mean, to me, that's the number one concern when we start to, think about October, November, December. Is there a legit path to the Vikings winning 11, perhaps 12 games, maybe even more? You start thinking about the health, this style, the physicality. Can they maintain these guys? We'll continue to see Harrison Smith, Stephon Gilmore, others getting some days off during the week. Judd, we will continue to see. It may not be every Wednesday, but this wasn't just a one-time deal. This Wednesday, we'll continue to see some of this mixed in, these walkthroughs versus going hard on a Wednesday.
Can we go a little deeper on TJ Hockenson here? So the window opens up. The London game would be the first eligible game, but then they have a bye week afterwards. That's one thing. This offense has been clicking with, Johnny Munt has done a nice job, but they don't have anything resembling what TJ Hockenson brings to this offense. He looked great running around in training camp on side fields. And so let's go a little bit deeper on timeline, potential impact for TJ Hockenson, et cetera, Dukes.
I'll still be surprised, Phil. As good as he has looked, I'll be surprised if he's playing that first weekend in October in London. I just look at the math. Okay, so he undergoes surgery in late January. It's just so rare to come back, whatever that is, 8 months to go back and perform. I wonder about the field surface there in London. That is something to consider. I just think with that bye, the way it's strategically placed. Now, if the bye was week 9 or week 10, maybe we have a different conversation. But I'm just telling you, I think it's more like October 20th, that home game against Detroit, where we see TJ, not October 6th in London.
I think if the game, that game against the Jets is, of course, technically a Vikings home game. And I think if that game was being played downtown here, that there might be a chance. But I'm with you, Dukes. One is those surfaces can be dicey. Like, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Do you want him testing that knee on the surface? And the secondary thing is the travel, right? Like, do you want to take him on a trip? You practice in London, you play him there. I think the bye creates such a great cushion there. And plus, then he comes back first game against his former team, the Detroit Lions, who he got hurt against. So, yeah, I would. And you know what, too? It factors in. If this team had one win, right? Like, if this team was sort of scuffling a little bit, you might say, oh my God, TJ Hockenson, we unlock him, but you're not scuffling. So everything to me, I think, goes with what you just said, which is it makes more sense to wait till you're home after the bye and then play him against Detroit, which will be really intriguing because it gives Darnold now, and O'Connell probably just as importantly, another weapon.
Think about Addison.
God bless him, but he ain't.
Think about Hockenson. Yes. So, yeah, I think it's October 20th. It's much more realistic. Now, I do anticipate him going to London. Like, Judd, I've not heard.
Sure.
They're not going to have him,
but not playing there.
Hop on the plane and all that, with any concern, with the far travel. Like, I anticipate him traveling to London, but like October 20th just makes a lot more sense. Like, this was always about a 9-month, even longer type full recovery. And yeah, you can push it a little bit, but when you undergo surgery on like January 26th or 7th, you start doing that math. You just don't come back as good as he's looked, right? Like, there is a plan with the medical staff that you don't do it. Like, even 9 months is a little aggressive, but I think you feel better with the 2 extra weeks. You get him back out there October 20th.
I have a Kevin O'Connell question for you. Just kind of, you've been in this industry.
Extend him. I don't know why they haven't. I'm just telling you, people close to Kevin still wonder that, but it's going to happen. The Vikings want him here for a really long time, but get to your question.
Yeah. You started in the industry here locally when Mike Tice was the head coach. So you've covered everyone from Tice to Childress to Frazier and to
Denny.
The end of Denny.
Yeah.
So you can compare the end of his run too. Just in terms of the get it factor for everything from scheming to culture building, everything you've seen from KOC to this point. How do you stack him up to the other Vikings coaches that you've seen in your career and covered?
Yeah, well, he's right at the top of the list. Now, there was a buy-in factor. The Denny Green regime was weird in so many ways, but guys, especially early on, bought in heavily. So, I don't want to diminish some of Denny's accomplishments, but to a man, you talk to guys, they freaking love Kevin O'Connell. I'm just telling you, Phil, I don't know if you could find anyone in Egan to say a bad word about the man. Heck, talk to people in Edina. His oldest son plays baseball for Edina. Some of the talks he's given his son's baseball team. Talk to some of those coaches.
Is he giving the same locker room speeches?
Just dropping F-bombs left and right to 8-year-olds?
Once a coach, always a coach, right? So, you can motivate kids. And when you're the Vikings coach, you're trying to get the attention of 9 and 10-year-olds. Trust me, they lock in on the Vikings coach. I'm just telling you, talk to people with Edina baseball, talk to people in Egan. I'm just telling you, you're not going to find anyone to say a bad word about the man. Yeah, we can nitpick on occasion some of the play calling, the last couple of years, some of the things with maybe the lack of being able to establish a run game. I get all that, right? We can nitpick some of the game day stuff. But from Saturday Monday to Saturday, the man is amazing. I also think he's a pretty darn good game day coach as well. And we've seen the clips of the post-game locker room speeches. I'm just telling you, these guys love playing for him. Heck, you talk to guys that are no longer here. They will tell you they loved playing for him. I'm just telling you, Phil, you are not going to find anyone to say a bad word about him. The Vikings absolutely, thank Denver for being uber aggressive hiring Nathaniel Hackett, because there were Vikings people who really liked Hackett, right? So
oh my God,
the Vikings weren't going to overreact. They wanted to go through a thorough process, okay? But they absolutely liked Hackett. But this could not have worked out any better. I do feel like the Vikings have their head coach for the next many, many years. They are going to extend him. It is going to happen. To me, it should have already happened. But I'm just telling you, the love for Kevin O'Connell is through the roof. And even if they were 1-2 right now, or 2-1, I'd be telling you the same thing.
The intriguing thing too, Dukes, is, and I think when this came out, people were like, whoa, that's not good. But I'm starting to get it now. And you've been in the locker room as well. I believe that the Vikings are, and it's close, but I think they're like the second or third oldest team roster-wise, okay? But,
although, what are we talking?
But that's my point.
25th ranked roster on that list. What are we talking about?
But here's what we're talking about.
9 months difference?
Here's what we're
1
talking
year
about.
difference, maybe?
I'll tell you exactly what we're discussing here, Dukes. We're discussing the fact that this team has brought in guys like Shaq Griffin, Stephon Gilmore, and they've insulated the locker room really well with some veterans who are respected and who buy in completely themselves. And so it's not just like it's a bunch of old slappies trying to play out the string and stuff. I was talking to Griffin yesterday, and he said when they signed Gilmore, it was like the final piece. That, like, the defensive room's like, okay, that's what we had to get. And so it's not been done like, well, we got to bring in some guys. There's actually, I think, a lot of thought and strategy. And so it becomes a good thing, too, because O'Connell does a great job, but he also has within that room, which is really important, he also has an infrastructure built that supports his message as well for the young guys to hear, not just from veterans, but what I would say are respected guys as well.
Yeah, go up and down the list. It's even a guy like Josh Metellus, who isn't all that old,
right?
But just the presence he has. Harrison Phillips. I hear a lot of stuff behind the scenes about Harrison Phillips, the leader that he is. Mm-hmm. There are so many guys. It also helps when your superstar, the face of the franchise, Justin Jefferson, has that synergy with Kevin O'Connell, how they meet regularly, have all sorts of different conversations, that it's kumbaya with those two. It starts there. It trickles down thereafter.
Hey, before we dive into the rest of Doogie's scoop bag here, if there's any Vikings things, there's plenty of other things floating around their decks. Underdog is a place that I know you are very happy to be on these days, football season.
I love football season, Underdog. And you know what? Screw it. I'll make some WNBA playoff pick'ems on Underdog here. I wrote
22 and a
Caitlin
half
Clark.
on Nafisa is disrespectful.
Boom!
Come on. This is basically they're giving away wins, in my opinion, here at Underdog. And yes, there's the NFL season 2. They got the 30% token bonus right now too. So any pick'em that you make, you slap on that 30% token bonus. Vikings and Packers this weekend. Love seeing all the pick'ems at Underdog. Go download the Underdog app. Promo code SCORE gets you a 50% deposit match. Shout out to everyone who has subscribed to Underdog. Go get the Underdog app. Go download it. Promo code SCORE for a 50% deposit match.
Dukes, we do have some, Twins crash and burn questions for you. But anything else on Vikings that's on your mind before we transition here?
Outside of, there's already been all this talk about, what's the future hold for Sam Darnold? I'll just tell you, I don't know if I verbalized this in this space or not. I think I have elsewhere. The Vikings think the world still of J.J. McCarthy. To me, nothing has changed when looking at 2025. So let's enjoy the moment. This is fun right now. But, I don't see a scenario outside of, okay, if they're hoisting the Lombardi Trophy in early February, we can revisit this. I understand that, all right? But barring something like that, I still think this is J.J. McCarthy's team in 2025.
By the way, J.J. McCarthy all over his social media, rooting for Sam Darnold, rooting for his teammates.
And it's genuine. I can promise you, genuine.
Yeah, he's not like, he clearly doesn't feel threatened or insecure about the way Sam Darnold is playing. He is the number one Sam Darnold fan on Twitter and Instagram, and it's cool to see. So, okay, I'm just going to ask you this on the Twins. So, yeah, they're still alive. They won last night. I think ESPN.com gives them a 20% chance to make the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs in the fashion that they are currently missing the playoffs in, which is 95% chance to make the playoffs a month ago and potentially crashing and burning here, do you think there's going to be major changes? Like percent chance they make a major change? Manager, top of the front office? What do you think?
All right. Is that the cutoff? So when you define major,
I'll say Falvey, Levine, Rocco.
Baldelli? No, I don't. Now, do I think Rocco's entire staff, as currently constructed, will be back? No, I don't. There will be a fall guy, perhaps even more than one. But on Rocco, on Falvey, on Levine, I've just not heard any steam whatsoever that any of the three are in any sort of trouble.
Do you think? Well, but the thing is, I mean, and they could still get in, but I just got to think if come Monday they have missed, and I mean it is a epic meltdown then. And I mean,
absolutely.
Yes. Patrick Royce, who was at home game 1 in 1961, has declared this would be the greatest meltdown in Twins history.
I get it. Yes.
I got to think that there's going to be, and I agree. The inclination will be don't make changes, but I don't know that you can do that. I don't know that you can sit there and say, they're all safe. That's fine. And I will, and Dex and I don't agree completely. I will say this. In that clubhouse, there are clear signs that players have tuned out Rocco. There are.
Well, I mean, I think they've tuned out each other.
But that's what I'm saying. But if it's a lost cause, that's not a good thing. That's not a good reflection. It's your job. When Baldelli was complaining after the game on Tuesday night, Doogie, that basically said, we give these guys a plan to go up with the plate with. These, the coaching is fine, these things, and essentially they're not executing it. They're not doing what they should do. That is basically Baldelli saying, I can't get my message across. If I hear that, I get very concerned. If nobody's listening to what you're saying, his thing is he's throwing every pass you can possibly throw. He's melted down, unprofessional. He's said, relax, we got to relax. And none of it's really worked until the Florida bleep or the Miami bleeping Marlins threw the ball around. I don't know that you can come Monday, if you're at the poll edge, just say, David Popkins, you're gone. I don't know. It's very interesting.
I mean,
I understand the case you're laying out. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah. Let me add this. And again, I don't think firing for the sake of firing is always the right move, because it's like, we want blood because we're unhappy, right? Like there needs to be. But I also don't think if you zoom out, I don't think in a 4-year window, this year going back 4 seasons, in which you are not rebuilding, you are trying to compete and win divisions. That is the stated goal. They're not in like a transition period the last 4 years. Bomba squad into pandemic, coming out of pandemic, they were trying to win, and they've missed if they miss the playoffs, it'll be 3 out of 4 seasons missed playoffs, expanded playoff format. I don't see how you can do that in a 4-year stretch, and then just sort of shrug it off and not tell the fans and the organization and the people all the way down to the field staff and the players, hey, we have if you have expectations as a franchise, here's what they are. We have not met them nearly often enough over the last 4 years or over the last 7 or 8 years of the Falvey regime. And so we're going to hold some people accountable. And maybe it's not 100% manager's fault or GM's fault or chief baseball officer's fault, but we are not reaching our standard. If, again, we do have a standard as ownership, I don't know. I just don't think you can shrug it off. I think you have to show people we hold figures accountable when we don't meet our goals over a 4-year stretch.
I'm telling you, I understand it. I get it. Heck, let's not forget about you want to call it a collapse? We can. September of 22. So they failed miserably in this spot 2 years ago. They're failing miserably again now. Declan, I'll defer to you. You're over there the most of the four of us. I'm just telling you, I've not heard steam suggesting that Rocco is out on Monday. But I get the case. If we hear on Monday Rocco's out, I'm not going to be like, whoa, what the heck? I'm just telling you, though, Declan, I have not heard it.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that Rocco would be out. Falvey and Levine aren't going anywhere. Like, if there is a fall person, the poll ads were to make a change, they would lead manager, I think, over Falvey Levine. That's more
agree
of a
on
gut
that for
check.
sure. Yeah. If it's one or the other, yes,
yeah.
I'm with you on that. Yes,
it's probably Rocco. But I at the end of the day, with 3 out of 4 missing the playoffs, and with Correa here and Royce Lewis healthy and Pablo Lopez, like they have players here. This was not this isn't like the Reds firing their manager because they're not maybe living up to expectations with the young roster. This is a roster that's supposed to be strangle holding the AL Central, and they have fallen short of that in 3 of the last 4 years, despite last year being a bunch of fun. So, yeah, I mean, this time next week, we're probably talking about exit strategies, and if they're not in the playoffs, that is too. And so this next week, because either the Twins are going to be in the playoffs or we're going to figure out a lot of interesting things from Levine, Falvey, ownership, etc. It's going to be a very, very interesting next week for the Twins.
But I think you guys might be right. I mean, you guys have a pulse on things, but don't we find it absolutely wild that we can sit here again, a collapse 2 years ago, a collapse this year, maybe miss the playoffs 3 out of 4 years with expanded playoff format in a division that's not exactly loaded with great teams. And it is like laughable that you would consider letting go the people that run your baseball operations department. It's like, whoa, that's clearly not going to happen. That's outside the realm of conversation. Like we have such a low standard as a Major League Baseball franchise that it is completely outside the realm of conversation that you would evaluate the people that hold those positions. I find that wild.
Fair. I'm just telling you, Phil, like Falvey and Levine, for sure. Like if it's one or the other, the manager or the front office, the manager's in more trouble. Mm-hmm. They still think the world, the poll ads do, of Derek and Thad. But that's fine. Like, Derek has had the most money to spend, right? You think about all the bodies he's added. It was necessary, but he's had a lot of resources, thrown his way. And yeah, when you fail 3 of 4 years, or it looks like 3 of 4 years, I still think the Royals are going to struggle this weekend in Atlanta. So we could still have that discussion of the Twins stumbling in because of the tiebreaker over the Royals, because I think the Braves could sweep the Royals this weekend. But I get it. The chances are, 10 or 15% that the Twins make it. I'm just telling you, though, I anticipate changes. I just don't know if I anticipate Rocco, Derek, Thad. But we're fine having this conversation. Mm-hmm. I've been saying for a while, spread the blame around. A lot of people just want to blame the poll ads. Fine, whatever. They deserve some blame. But the front office, the misstep at the trade deadline. And, hey, even entering the season thinking you could absolutely depend on Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan, and Pablo Lopez to all make 32-ish starts. Like, we knew Chris Paddock would break down, right? So some of the missteps, even going back to last winter, heck, thinking that Kyle Farmer back at $5 million plus made sense. That was an easy first guess. When you have a limited amount of money to spend, you don't spend $5 million on retaining Kyle Farmer. So we can place blame, at the feet of the front office as well. And then, sure, in-game strategy, bullpen management. I mean, think about how many times inherited runners have scored, right? So should you have left a certain pitcher in a little bit longer? The pinch hitting decisions that Rocco has made. So many have failed miserably. So to me, it's all around. And let's not take a lot of these players off the hook as well. I still think the Twins are baffled that it took 2 months for Carlos Correa to come back. So when Correa the other night is sort of calling out, not by name, but calling out teammates, it's like, whoa, Carlos, what do you mean? Like, you missed 2 months and now you're calling guys out? Yeah. That's where I'm saying, maybe Rocco's lost the clubhouse to some extent, but the players, I'm not sure they're in sync either.
Yeah, there's some definite fractures there, and that's what I said about. So Carlos took the opportunity to do that, which is his right as a veteran, and he's as close to a captain as that team possibly has. But
Easily, yeah.
I said yesterday that the problem is I think that there's some guys that look at Carlos and be like, "You just missed 2 months. You're supposed to be back in 10 days."
Yes.
And and Dex Royce's comments last night, pregame, I found to be very interesting because Royce doesn't really fire back like it's not direct on, but he alludes to things and says, I'm still trying to learn this. I was surprised to see that. I would say it's the anti-Doogs Kumbaya. I would say that they're not singing Kumbaya and instead saying, "Get off my cloud."
What were the Royce comments? I did not hear or see the Royce comments. Apologies.
That he, that he's doing everything he can, and he even, classic Royce gave himself a nickname. He said, "I'm doing everything I can to be everyday Royce." That's what I'm trying to do here. But buried also in those comments was, I was a little taken back by it. And if I'm picking apart or if I'm guessing who Carlos is talking about, it's Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee. Mm-hmm. Those are the two guys that come to mind. For who Carlos was insinuating at.
There's one more, maybe Julian. Although Julian,
but
what's he had like one at bat in the last week?
Is he a factor in that?
Yeah, I don't know.
But the fact that he's not a factor would piss me off if I'm Carlos Correa.
Yeah. Correct.
Whereas this guy was batting leadoff for us in playoff games.
You're right.
And he can't get his bleep. He's in the minors for half the year. Come on, dude. Mm-hmm. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. Hit a curveball.
To that, but yes, those two names. Yeah, if I had to guess, I'm with you on
That's
that.
who he's talking about. Yeah.
Duke's rapid fire scoops to wrap up this episode. What else you have in your little scoop bag over there?
So two Twins hit incentives. So you think about all the contract incentives as we wind down the regular season. So Carlos Correa gets a $100,000 bonus for being an All-Star. Carlos Santana gets $250,000 for plate appearances. I believe it was $500 for him to hit 250. So he passed the 500 plate appearance threshold. So those are the only two Twins that I can tell that hit incentives.
The Pirates would have DFA'd
I'm about
anyone.
To say that. I'm surprised the Twins didn't DFA him.
That is absolutely classic. The Wolves' first practice is Tuesday. Don't sleep on PJ Dozier. I mean, I get it. Rob Dillingham, the favorite to be the backup point guard, but I've heard a lot of good things about PJ Dozier, and the Wolves are going to have him on the ball. And so just keep an eye. If you're looking at some training camp battles, if you're looking at that number 2 point guard battle, just don't assume it's for sure Dillingham. Yeah, Dillingham's going to be a factor, and they could coexist. It's not like you couldn't play Dozier with Dillingham, but I'm just saying, I've heard some good things the last handful of weeks about PJ Dozier. The Gophers basketball team has tentative plans to have a recruit on campus for an official visit on Monday. Tristan Beckford, a 6'6" wing. He just visited Boise State. The Gophers just offered him earlier this month. Trying to see if I wrote down anything else. It was a nice run for Max Kepler. Oh, my buddy Ellerson Smith, Northern Iowa, Minneapolis native, played for the New York Giants. Draft pick a couple years ago, the Giants. He worked out earlier this week for the Cleveland Browns.
Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. We'll do it again tomorrow. Leave us a couple nuggets for tomorrow.
I will. Absolutely.
All right.
We'll talk tomorrow at 11 a.m. Sounds good. See you, boys.
Sounds good. All right, Doogs. That's another episode here, a scoop session, Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.